greatness has always come from lots of failures. Absolutely. No one gets to be great, or nothing is invented. You don't get to Everest without lots of defeats. You can't do it, right? And so I think kids now think that everything's got to be success, and when they fail, it's over, right? And that's just a building block for getting to where you want.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode here on the Hart Hustle podcast. When you think of the YMCA, do you still picture just the treadmills and the swimming pools? Well, my guest today would actually kindly ask you to think again. This man has spent decades flipping the script, turning the Y into a full-blown heartbeat of the community, from mental health to mentorship, from AI nonprofits to real leadership lessons. We're unpacking it all with someone who's lived it. Let's welcome Mr. Brad to the Hart Hustle podcast. How you doing today, sir?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I love you. Man, listen, I said I love you. Well, I do love you. That's how we're going to start off here. So, Brad, I love that we're in this space of YMCA, because the last time I actually been to YMCA is probably like a year or 2 years ago. And the reason I went is because they do free swimming lessons. And I have a little daughter.
Right.
And when I walked in, I'm like, man, it's been a long time. Before that, maybe I was 12 years old,
Right.
And we went, me and my brother went, it was a community thing. We had a YMCA where we grew up. But ever since then, I haven't walked into one, man. What is it? Actually, I remember you telling me that your dad was a YMCA director too. I wasn't mistaken.
Yeah. And by the way, you made me feel very old when you said decades in the Y, but I guess that's true. My first job was at the Y, in good part because my dad was the executive director at the community center YMCA where we grew up. He was there at the Y since I was born. So he retired after 32 years there. So I spent a lot of my formative years in YMCA programs or just running around. I have such fond memories of going with my dad to the Y before it was open on a Saturday morning. He'd have to open it. And as an elementary school kid, to be able to run around a giant building, with all kinds of different spaces was just awesome. So a lot of fond memories that helped guide me through life. And so it was a natural progression to keep giving back and joining the Y.
Do you ever feel like at some point you're just living on your dad's legacy? Someone that was in a YMCA for some years and did damn near the work that you're doing now. You're probably doing it at a bigger scale, but do you ever feel like you're just kind of following your dad's footsteps as leaving that legacy?
Well, following his footsteps, but making my own path as well. My dad did a lot of things really good. But of course, when he was a director, when he retired, they had a lot of technology. They did their budget on paper. He got his phone messages written and put in his box. They didn't have voicemail. There wasn't a lot of technology back then, and so a lot has changed. But the foundation of my belief system is definitely how I lead as a leader is from my dad. Compassion, understanding, building people up, and that kind of thing.
You're in a special place as a leader when it comes to nonprofit, Brad. And I say that because not a lot of people spend their entire career in the nonprofit, world. And you never really, I don't think that we spoke last time that you mentioned that you were in the for-profit world. Did you always want to do nonprofit just because it felt like home for you? Like this is what you kind of grew up in and you loved it growing up?
Well, when I got out of college, I had a degree in sociology. So I didn't really know, like a lot of people that get out of college are like, what am I going to do the rest of my life? And so it was sort of a natural thing for me to start at a Y. I was a swim coach and aquatic director. And then it just felt good, and I just never stopped. And I, as most people do in life, they try to achieve more and progress more and learn more. And so I kept moving up. With the YMCA, a lot of times you got to move. So I moved several times with my wife and kids. And I've been here in Martinsville for 17 years, and I think we'll probably stay till retirement here. Really like it. But before that, I progressed through several different stages at Ys.
Wow. What was that moment for you? Maybe a story or a person that really made you think as you were doing this through all these decades. Yep, this is really where I want to be. This is where I'm meant to be, actually.
Well, it's reinforced all the time, in the Y. In fact, if you hear background noise of people carrying on and having a good time, it's because I'm in my office, and right over here, I usually have the windows open where I can see people and wave to them and, give a quick shout out. But it's reinforced all the time when you mentioned your daughter learning to swim.
Hmm.
When you see somebody that's never been in a pool before and they're putting their face under, and
Hmm.
they're learning water safety. When you see a senior that has lost a loved one and they never came to the Y before, but now the Y is the go place for them because they need community. So those things throughout my career have just kept me going.
I love that. And we kind of go back to the beginning of what we were talking about. What's really nails on a chalkboard for you is when someone says the why is
Yeah.
gym and swim,
Right.
right?
Right.
What are they really missing about the why? Why do
Well,
they just reduce it to that?
this is nothing against fitness centers or for-profit fitness centers. They have a spot and fill a need, but that's not us, right? We do have weight equipment, we do have a pool, but the purpose of those instruments, if you will, is not to be the same as the equipment that a Planet Fitness has. And so
Hmm.
let me explain. I was thinking about this today. Um, when we teach swim lessons, we certainly teach water safety and how to swim, but we also teach how to be a part of a group. We also teach self control, sitting there. We teach risk taking in a safe environment. We teach how to learn a new skill. So the purpose of those lessons, if you will, those swim lessons, are to teach much more than just the what you would think you're getting.
Hmm.
I also coached the swim team, and I recently came up with sort of a pledge or a statement of what we are. And almost none of it is about winning or getting faster. It's about how we respond to when we fail, right?
I love that.
How we have a work ethic to do better. And when we do those things, we win
Yeah.
in the most part. And so, just another example of we have group exercise classes, and some people on the surface level would say, "Oh, yeah, you're teaching group exercise, and people go in and they get stronger." Well, what we're giving is community. So people come into that class specifically because they don't want to work out alone. They want to meet people. They want to go through life with people that are also exercising. So it's very different than just being a fitness center and a pool.
Yeah.
We're here for the community, for much more, for building mind, body, and strength. That's what
Yeah.
we're all about.
And giving someone a place to go when they feel like there's nowhere to go, right?
Exactly.
Giving them that family. You mentioned how people come in, they wave at you because now you become part of their day, part of
Yeah.
their life. You're like family to them. I can only imagine how many gifts you're receiving on a Christmas,
Yeah.
month or things like that. And I actually want to talk about a little bit about kind of what you guys do during that time. You mentioned YMCA Santa.
Yeah.
What does a story like that say
Yeah,
about the
so
soul
so
of
we
this
we
thing?
had an individual that was challenged. He was actually a little bit older than me, and he was one of the first people I knew when I came here. He recently passed away, so we were reflecting on him and his impact. So he had a lot of challenges, but he lived on his own. He drove. God forbid you wouldn't want to get behind him because he drove 35 miles an hour everywhere, even if he was on a highway. But he brightened everybody's day. And it wouldn't be unusual for Patrick to come in around Christmas time in a full Santa outfit. He already had a beard, and he just wanted to give back. And he'd walk around and say ho 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 and talk with people. And that was that's just one example of the eclectic people you meet at the Y, right? He
Hmm.
was a character that made the Y what it is. And if you went to any Y, I would challenge you, you will have a Patrick like person there, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I love that. I do love that you guys still honor him, right? That just kind of goes to show what the community looks like.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure, as you mentioned, so many people remember Patrick coming in
Right.
like that, or Patrick just saying hello, or
Right.
seemed like he was just that person, spoke to anybody,
Right.
right? And this was a safe place. This is where he felt very comfortable to do the things that he was doing, and you guys allowed it. So I think it's always cool that you guys allow people to just come as they are, right? That's what the why
That's
is.
a
Come as
huge
you are.
part. Is being a part of a community. You got to be honest in that we all have issues, right? We're not all perfect, and too many times we put on this facade, right? And we hope that we create an environment here where people can let down that guard. One of the things that we talked about, we created a YMCA culture document of who we are. And one of the things in that document is we ask people how they're doing, but not like you normally do. Because normally, hey, Efren, how you doing today, right?
Yep.
And whatever your answer is, I'm going to say, oh, that's great. I mean, you could tell me you're having the worst day ever, and I'd be like, well, I just wanted hey, I'm good, right? But what we stress to the staff is when you ask somebody how they're doing, you're really opening an invitation for them to say how they're doing, and you'll respond appropriately. So if they're saying, man, I'm having a tough day today, that we listen to that and we give back what they need, and not that surface level, oh, okay, you know.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, and keep going.
Yeah, so that is the kind of community that we want here, where people can open up, they can share stories. Right outside my office, we have these 3 benches, and more conversation happens there than I think anywhere in the community. And people, a lot of times, the old timers will sit there and they'll talk about life. They'll talk about their struggles of getting old, because when you're 80, nothing's easy. And that it makes their life better just sitting on those benches. As silly as that seems, that is a huge deal to people that are aging and can't do the things they can. Maybe they sit at home by themselves the rest of the day. So those moments at the Y are profound, even though they look simple.
No, that's actually to think that people would, even after working out, just spend time at the Y.
Yeah.
It shows that second home to them, right? Where they feel comfortable enough to just hang out another 30, 45
Yeah,
minutes.
I'll
But
give
you
you
guys will also engage.
a perfect example is we just had a family join this past year. In fact, their father bought a membership for them. And it is a blended family. So it's a husband, wife, his kids, their kids, her kids. I don't even know how many, but Ronnie's a good friend, and their life is busy. I don't know if they live in the same house, but they all come in about the same time to work out. And sometimes that's the only time I think they get to talk to each other, because their lives are so busy. But the Y has become, like you said, that second place where they go, they get healthy, and they enjoy their time together.
I love that. You did mention last time we spoke, Brad, that you wasn't a big fan of writing, right? But you did mention as well, with writing, you're using AI to help
Yeah.
shape really what culture docs look like, and make sure it looks, presentable for whoever's reading this. How did this start? Because I'm speaking to nonprofit leaders, and believe me, some of them are just using ChatGPT and thinking to themselves like, wow, this is amazing. This would change my nonprofit, which it will. But I think there's a lot of AI tools out there that are really also helping and developing nonprofits at a faster scale. What is your thoughts on AI? How did you even get started to start
Yeah.
using AI?
Well, so let's go back to my grade school. I was an absolute terrible reader and terrible writer. My mind just doesn't work that way. And I never appreciated the skill of writing or reading till I got older, maybe even just 15 years ago. So in my 40s. And then I realized that just like talking, writing is a powerful communicator, and you can change people's perspective and how they view things by writing just as much as you can talk to them. So I worked on that skill, but even, working on that didn't get me to where I needed to be. So AI has been a huge blessing for me. In fact, I'll give you a couple of examples that I just used in the last week. I mean, I'm using it more and more. I wanted to make this commitment for the swim team that I'm coaching, right? So what is the coach's commitments? What are the kids' commitments? What are the pillars that we stand on? And I just had these bullet points, right? Just things like I wrote them down, but how we're going to practice, what we're going to focus on. And I put it into GPT and I said, expand on this. And man, it came up with the most elegant, beautiful document that was up here, right? It was up here, but I couldn't articulate it in writing. I also had to do some agreements. I wouldn't say they were contracts, but they pretty much were. And I'm not a lawyer, so I wrote that. I said, put this into, an agreement. And then I'll give you a personal one. I'm going on spring break with my wife to Savannah, and I heard a guy talk the other day, and he was telling about all the things AI can do, right? And he said, you can make an itinerary. So I said, okay, we're gonna see what this thing will do. So I put in AI, said, my wife, we're going to Savannah. Here's the place where we're staying. We like to run. We like to have coffee in the morning, and we like to have beer at night with live music. Create me an itinerary. And within 5 seconds, 10 seconds at the most, it came up with a daily itinerary. And there was something that I forgot to put in there. We don't like fancy restaurants, because it had us going to some upper end restaurants. So I said, hey, we want a middle of the road, nice, with a lot of culture restaurant. And it changed it. I mean, the power of what AI can do is pretty incredible.
Hey, real quick, if you're enjoying the podcast, we first want to say thank you. And we also just want to give you a little insight of what we're up to at Francis. Some don't even realize that we're working with organizations to help them use AI to create that real human communication experiences, whether it's actually supporting your families, those patients, or the entire community. We're actually creating tech that connects. Check it out, francis.ai. Yeah. I'll tell you another one, Brad, that happened to me. You talked about not being an attorney and a lawyer, right? I had a situation where I had to be my own lawyer. Well, ChatGPT was my lawyer, actually.
Right.
Because I was putting in, you could put in screenshots into ChatGPT and it would read it, so you could put in documents and it would read it. So I'm talking to it. I love to talk to it. So either I'm talking to it on my phone all the time because it's just better that way. You talked about not wanting to write. You could just talk to it. How great is this? Or I'm right here just talking to it as I'm doing it. And I got my money back, and it got to the point where it even sometimes gets like kind of aggressive, to where I had to say, hey, that's too aggressive. Can we kind of tone it down a little bit?
Right.
Like ChatGPT, it's an assistant. It's a tool. Yeah. I think when people, especially leaders, I think anyone thinks AI coming into their establishment, that their jobs are being replaced. But I think the jobs are going to be replaced by people that know AI, not so much just AI.
Right.
But I'm loving that you're using it. There's so many different features. Like if you can have let's say a virtual AI bot, whether it's on the website, whether that's inside the YMCA, for the communities, for engagement, what does that look like for you?
Well,
if you thought that far.
Well, we actually just hired a marketing director, and she's young and is very versed in AI. But of course, AI is changing so much that you need to keep up with it. And we were talking about our marketing. And one of the things that the Y has is it's very tight on its brand and how you use it, what colors you use, what you put around it. And there's a branding document that's probably about 40 pages long. And we were talking, I said, could you pump that into AI? And then, maybe we pay for the program, because, you can only use so much for free, and have it create our flyers. And she said, oh yeah, and there it's legit. So I have not got into the financing part of AI, but I know a lot of Ys will use it. They'll put in their financial statement each month, and they'll say, tell me what you see, where I can make improvements. I haven't got to that part, but I can tell you when I sent an email yesterday that I had to be real sensitive about, but I needed to make an ask. That's really all I can tell you. And so I wrote it and I put it in ChatGPT and I said, here's the situation. I want to come across as compassionate, but and it took what I wrote and made it a ton
So
better.
much better.
A ton better. I mean, and it's not if anybody out there's never used AI, it's not it's amazing how it is what you're thinking, right? It doesn't take what you write and totally change it to something that you're not familiar with.
Yeah.
And that's what's incredible. It's not an editor, it's actually thinking. And, you can tweak it any way you want.
Brad, I don't even know if you've done this part. If you go to ChatGPT and go to the settings, you can kind of almost create that engine, right? You could tell it what kind of tone you want. What are you
Right.
doing? Who is Brad? So that anytime you talk, like I got it to the point, Brad, I now use ChatGPT so much, I need to create automations out of ChatGPT. So I have, and this is crazy on the back end, and you might be like, I don't get it. But if you look at the diagram, there's like 15, maybe 15 steps, but it's all automation. I could now drop a video into one file and it'll come back on the other end with a full script, like full caption, hashtags, hook, and everything for my video. Don't, and it's in my voice because I created this GPT
Right.
that would do. It's like amazing what AI is doing. And I'm
Yeah.
kind of, when I think about nonprofit leaders, as you mentioned, if you're not using it, why not? It's truly
Yeah, for
saves
sure.
time.
For sure. Well, another example that this speaker gave the other day is you could take an hour long YouTube video and you could dump it into AI. Let's say we're all busy and nonprofit leaders are busy too. So
Yeah.
if you had a training that you had to watch, but you just didn't have the time, dump it into Chat GPT, say, give me the 15 bullet points, that this video is talking about. And what, within a minute, you have that? I mean,
I got one better for you, Brad. I'm not a reader. As much as I could read, I just don't like to read. Okay, so I got all these books are just for show. Don't think that I read those books. I tried, and then my mind goes elsewhere. But
yeah,
there was this book right here, right? Big book. I'm definitely not opening it. But someone gave it to me as I transitioned to just entrepreneurship. He says, "Man, this book changed my life. The Success Principles." And I'm reading it. Chicken Soup for the Soul. I remember
right,
that book. I'm like,
right, right.
okay, cool. But I wasn't gonna read the whole book, so I put in the title. I said, "Hey, can you give me like some insights?" And knows what I'm doing. I'm in the coaching, podcasting space, and it gave me breakdown
Yeah.
of almost every chapter and how I could utilize some of these things that were in this book. And I'm like, wow, like you mentioned, within seconds, I already knew what the book was about, and it stripped everything that I needed to know.
Isn't that
How
awesome?
cool is that?
Yeah. Well, that reminds me. I love Jordan Peterson, who's a psychiatrist and has written a book, 12. I forget what it is, but he's very difficult to read. Like, and I'm not a strong reader, as I mentioned, right? So I read what he says, and I don't get it. It's like the King James version, right, of the Bible. You read it, and you're like, what? And so I may put him through ChatGPT and say, give me in my language, the principles here, and I'll be able to understand it a lot better.
I love it. I love it. You said nonprofits still need to be run like businesses, but with soul.
Yeah.
Can you break that down for someone who might not get what balance actually looks like?
Well, so a lot of times people get into the nonprofit world because they're passionate about certain area, right? They
Mhm.
want to help. They want to open a feeding center, or they want to give food to the homeless, or they want to do something that is close to their heart. But there's a whole another aspect to running a nonprofit besides the passionate part, and it's called a business. And so we as nonprofits have a real challenge to run ourselves like a business, even though most of the time we're very, very small. We're about a $2 million YMCA. That may seem like a lot, but small things can make big impacts. So we watch everything we spend, um, and so it's important to not only finances but human resource wise, how you portray yourself. You have to be as good as any business out there.
Yep.
I as the director, so we're small enough. Why that I'm the IT guy, I'm the HR guy. I play, have a lot of hats on. And, we're mentioning AI. Now you can pump in, you could put in, I have an employee that's doing this, blah, blah, blah. What do you recommend? And ChatGPT would come up with an answer, So we have to wear many hats, but that's not an excuse not to have finances done properly to ensure something like segregation of duties, which means that someone's not taking money, that people's that are paying you in donations or membership, that your money is accounted for, that you're treating employees according to the law and what's right. Those are big things that people going into a nonprofit have to take into consideration.
Brad, when you think about fundraising, are you guys doing fundraising? Like when I think of YMCA, there's memberships. I don't know if I've ever seen an event put on by the YMCA. Or do you guys do fundraisers? Is that what you guys
Yeah, in
into that
fact, the
world?
poster right here, we're trying to raise $28 million for a new.
The new building, is that what it is?
Yeah. So
Okay, okay.
um,
That's what I
I
figured.
had to put
Very
that
good.
prop in there,
Yeah.
So we're always fundraising in one sense or another. I'll give you an example. Our swim team, swim teams are very costly because of not only the staffing, but you're taking valuable pool time away. And so we go out and we ask for sponsors. But the biggest thing with fundraising, I'll tell you, is telling your story, right? So
Hmm.
what we like to do, or I like to do, is, for example, say, we're teaching 700 first graders in Martinsville and Henry County free swim lessons. They come from the school, they do their swim lessons, and they go back to school. So we guarantee that we're teaching everybody a week long of swim lessons, and we do it at no cost to the individual. And then you segue into, is that something you could support? Right.
Hmm.
So it's not a cold, hey, you need to give the Y money because we're a nonprofit and it's hard to make it. We tell our story of what we're doing. We're impacting lives. We're making a difference. We're giving seniors a place to go. And then we give an avenue for them to give back. And that's been very successful because who
Okay.
wouldn't, we have so many different facets that if somebody, it isn't their thing to support kids in swim lessons, but it is for seniors for a safe place to be, you can support that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I believe nonprofits, their product is stories. Like that's what
yeah,
we sell, right?
for sure.
Nonprofit,
Mhm.
we sell stories, and when people get to see the story and the impact that it's making on the other end, they're definitely more compelled to give.
Yeah.
So we don't have a physical product. We're not selling a book. I mean, in this case, we sell, in YMCA, selling there's memberships, but there's also selling that story for people to say, oh, I want to see more of that, right? And that's what all organizations do. Do you actually think that there's a mind shift that leaders should have or need to make when asking for money? Is there anything differently that you think you come across?
Well, sometimes people think that they're owed because they're doing good work, right?
Mm,
I'm doing good work here, so you should contribute to me. And that's not how life works, right? People want to know that their funding is going to valuable work and making a difference. And so I never begrudge somebody that doesn't support the Y or doesn't support it to what they support other organizations, because we have some very good funders that make it really well known that they've never been in the Y. They don't even know necessarily what the Y does, but they contribute. And they'll make it well known that is, look, it's not my ballywick, right? I love
yeah.
the Y. I love what you do, Brad, but I'm over here because this is what I support, but they still support us. So no one owes your nonprofit anything,
Hmm.
even though you're doing great work. Tell your story. Don't whine about how broke you are and how you need their donation, but tell a story that's compelling, and then open the door for them to give. Right?
Yeah.
It'll just happen. It will just happen.
Yeah, I think communication with donors is so important. One of the things I've noticed is out of sight, out of mind. People think that asking too much or too many times could be a hinder to some folks. But I don't think so. I think I'm seeing in the nonprofit space, as me now being in the leadership role, where people are saying, hey, I don't mind giving. You just got to ask, remind me, right? Like people give to so many places, they forget. Or, maybe they give that one time a year, they forget. And if you don't remind them, how do we keep engagement? How do we keep that communication going? Letting them know that there's events, is that happening for some nonprofits? And I think some nonprofits haven't created that database that allows them to communicate, and even through text message. I think the number one form of communication is text message.
Yeah.
And I think you could agree with that. You're never going to change your phone number. So if you get someone's phone number, if they
Right.
get your number saved in, I think there's something there. And it's how do we keep them engaged so they can also, come back. And I want to challenge you on something, because we talked about this a little earlier as well. For those that are watching, that hasn't been in the YMCA since the 90s, what's something about the modern YMCA that would totally surprise someone as they walk in?
You should have given me this question. Well, okay. So in the 90s, I'll tell you this. My dad's old Y, it had the universal equipment, right? And this is going back even to the 70s, right? It had the rubberized track that went around and it was curved. And in the middle was a universal machine and a heavy bag and a speed bag. And Ys have changed where sometimes they had a reputation for being a grungy place, that wasn't clean. And the majority of Ys are not like that anymore. We've spent a lot on the infrastructure of Ys. Certainly our Y is aging, but it's well kept up. The equipment is new. And so, I would challenge them that the Y is constantly changing to serve what it's needed in the community. I was thinking about this the other day because we had a list of questions. Ys back in the day, some of the old timers remember the Y was all about staying, men staying there. So if you had a Y in downtown Roanoke or some of the bigger metropolitan areas, men could stay there. And they also swam naked, right? Because there were only men there. So we have changed a lot over the years, and we'll continue to change. The Y is doing much more, we're about body, mind, spirit, but we've forgot about the mind in a lot of sense as far as like mentally being mentally healthy. And the Y is getting much more into understanding their role in mental health, right? Certainly coming and working out is good, for your mental health. But there's other things like, how do people deal with stress? How do they deal with the death of a loved one? And how can the Y be a space that helps with that? So that's what you're going to see more of going forward is we're not just about getting physically healthy, but mentally healthy as well.
And for folks that are listening who haven't stepped in the Y, and want to know how they can give back, what are some ways? I know you mentioned a new building. What are some ways our listeners and those that are watching, whether it's now or years from now, how can they continue to give back to their local YMCAs, to YMCAs in general? What does that look like?
Well, you can give your time, treasure, or talent is what we say. So, your time, you can volunteer. Your treasure you can give, or your talent you can volunteer, whatever your skill set is. The other thing is just Google the Y close to you and go in and see what it's all about, and dig a little bit deeper than just walking around and seeing the facility, because the facility is just a tool to shape people's lives. So, see what programs they do, talk with the staff and see how they're affecting people's lives. And then, get engaged at whatever level you want. We were talking on the last time about everybody has a Y story, right? It's amazing. Whether it's a tiny one or a big one, whether it's, hey, I went to day camp when I was a kid, or I learned to swim at the Y, or I was a camp counselor or a lifeguard. Everybody's been touched one way or another by the YMCA. And we'd like to make it more profound than just passing.
Brad, I can't believe we've been talking already almost 35 minutes. So we got another question before we get to this blind question.
Yeah, yeah.
What does it mean to you personally to lead with purpose in a world that often chases profit over people? You've been doing it for so long.
Well, it's a blessing, right? It's a blessing to see the effect we're having on people.
Mhm.
And I will say, it's not always a sequitur, but leading with passion, focused passion, and making a space for people to enjoy community eventually leads to profit, right? So it is it it doesn't mean that you can't make money at it, because people seek what the Y is giving. Um, I'll also say I grew up as a swimmer. I swam Division 1 in college on a scholarship, so that's something that has affected my trajectory in life. And so I'm giving back, coaching the kids here, and even though I work a full day and then I go coach, it is totally different work that sort of juices me up, and I love to do it because I see the kids changing, not only getting faster, but their mindset, right? Because we talk
Yep.
a lot about hard work, right? Which isn't among kids under 20 isn't a good thing, right? They want to be able to do things the easy way, right? And we talk about perseverance, hard work, commitment, teamwork, and things. And going back to those old school things, and seeing how the kids absorb that is really awesome.
Almost kind of scary when you think about kids and the way they think, right? It's almost they have that Amazon effect. They want it now,
Yeah,
and then you have a chat GPT that gives it to them now.
right.
It's kind of scary because will they have that hard work, that grit that I think a lot of us got from, young and putting in that time and our hard work and getting creative and thinking outside the box. As you mentioned, I go to ChatGPT and say, hey, think outside the box. I'm doing X, Y, Z. And within seconds, it gives it
Yeah,
to you.
yeah,
So I think there's pros and there's cons to it, but I did kind of like in the direction you were going to when it comes to our youth and what does that look like,
yeah,
nowadays.
yeah. And we
Um,
and we talk a lot about I always parallel life with practice, right? Or
mhm.
swim team. And I tell them, this is not, you're not going to go from this time to this time like this.
Yep.
That's not how life works. That's not how swimming works. You're going to have this, right? And when you're down here, you analyze, why did that happen? How do
Mhm.
I get back up? Same as life, right?
Yep.
If life was like this, it would be boring, to be honest. And so we
I
talk a
agree.
lot about that. And we talk a lot about, it is never when you win when you learn the most, right? It is when you don't do what you wanted to do and you have to learn from it. and
Yeah.
and that's life.
I love that you give me the example of like this, right? Like you're not really enjoying it. Someone mentioned to me recently, like, man, life's been a roller coaster, and I'm like, oh, that's good. That
Right,
means you're living. Because
right.
if you're not, are you really living? That
Yeah,
life is about those roller coasters. There are ups and downs, and as you mentioned, when you're down, what is there to learn when you're down?
yeah,
Because those are the really like learning moments. We go and chase something, we fail. That doesn't mean you failed for life. It just means that there was a lesson to be learned, so you don't make the mistake again, or
yeah,
that you could be better the next time. So
yeah.
I
greatness
do
is
agree,
greatness has always come from lots of failures.
100%,
Absolutely.
hundred
No one gets to be great, or nothing is invented, or you don't get to Everest without lots of defeats. You
Yep.
can't do it, right? And so I think kids now think that everything's got to be success, and when they fail, it's over, right?
Yep.
And that's just a building block for getting to where you want.
I agree. Listen, I can't. This has been such a great conversation that I'm still in awe that we're already at the 40-minute mark.
Yeah,
I'm gonna give you the blind question, man. This is a really good blind question. So the last leader wants to ask if you were handed a blank check, Brad. They want you to dream big for
yeah.
the next 10 years of the YMCA. What would you actually do?
Oh, that's an easy one, right? So we're building this. Our dream is to build this new YMCA. We bought the property. It's a $28 million new Y. We have $18 million of it, and we're working
Nice.
every day to get more. We would I would write that check, and we'd start building tomorrow. And it would be, as much as we're transformative here at our current Y. Sometimes facility and physical things limit you from doing what you want to do. And so
Mhm.
this would let us do everything that we want to do in the community. So yeah,
Do you
that's,
have a say, you being at that seat where you're currently, do you have a say at what it looks like, what's being inputted, things like
oh
that, or is
yeah,
this kind of general?
yeah, yeah. And we've worked with one valuable lesson I've learned is you don't ever have to be the smartest guy in the room, but you have to put the smartest guys in the room with you.
Yeah.
So one of the things we've done along this process is hired consultants that just work with Wise on knowing your community and what you should put into a new Y that will be successful, right? So we've worked with a lot of smart people that said, here's what you should build. And if you build this, you will be successful.
Can you mention some of the new things that will be going to this YMCA that maybe yours currently doesn't have?
Yeah. So one of the things is a outdoor splash park, splash
Mhm.
pad. So a lot of municipalities are putting them in. Some YMCA's are. And so this would be a place for a community to come where you don't need a lifeguard on a hot day. It would be awesome. We're putting
Mhm.
in a third. So we have two half courts now. We put in a third half court. So it'd be a bigger gym because we always want a place for people to go. It has a second pool because we are busting at the seams with all the things we have going on in the pool. We can't serve more people unless we expand. Um, and then just an expanded wellness center where we can help people reach their physical goals of getting stronger, losing weight, staying healthy, and things like that.
Sounds fun, man. Do you still get the corner office with the windows?
This one, the office would be have windows where I can see people coming into the building. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay. You still get to see that. I was about to say
yeah.
you can't get rid of that. That was your thing. That was your
Right,
thing. You
right,
got to see
right.
the people. Well, Brad, man, it definitely was a pleasure. Is there anything that you want to leave our listeners with? Any insights on the YMCA if you had to say the last words to them?
Well, just like we started with the Y is not a gym and swim. It has a pool, it has a fitness center, but those are tools to reach our purpose, which is to make people healthier in mind, body, and spirit. And so never think when you're joining the Y that you're joining a fitness center. You're joining a community center, and
I
that's an
love it.
important that it is a very very important distinction. That the Y is here to make people's lives better, not just stronger.
Amazing words from Brad. Guys, if you haven't walked into a YMCA in years, the decades, this is the time where you want to walk into a YMCA. I've seen actually a lot of them that as you mentioned, been updated, have been brand new, have the splash pads, have the pools. So if you guys are still wondering, should you go to the YMCA? Yes, there's so many opportunities for you at all stages of your life. Whether you have a young kid that you want to get into the YMCA, to you mentioned about swimming lessons, or you're the elder that just needs community, that needs to feed you talked about body, mind, and soul. This is a time to go check out your local YMCA. We appreciate you, Brad, for being here, for giving us more insight on what has been really a almost a landmark for a lot of us. We probably all remember that YMCA was in our communities.
Right.
So thank you for kind of giving us back the nostalgic feeling, in hopes that we can get some more people into the YMCAs. And I can't wait to see that new building as well.
Yeah, glad to do it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Brad, my name is Efrain. As you know, guys, you're still watching Hard and Hustle Podcast. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.